Hello, gorgeous
Aquí
women.
estamos, aquí estamos.
How are you? I love the background. That's
my
amazing,
Cuban mural.
Gloria.
Yeah.
Always present, always in our heart. And I love we've got the red lips going so everybody knows we're Cuban.
Yeah, I also have my hoops. I mean, forget it. Oh, I should have had my Glorita necklace. I'm sorry.
That's it.
I'm let down.
But
you know,
it's like Coco Chanel says, you put it all on, and then you look in the mirror and you take something off.
Right.
So
I think with Cubans though, you put two more things on.
I mean, yeah. But we've gotten Americanized a little bit, right? I mean, you look here long enough, and we got Americanized a little bit. We still have a couple more minutes. I said we were starting at 3:05 to keep it very Miami. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you about this. Just because, like,
oh man, it's a lot, you guys.
It's so much. It's
so, a lot.
I mean, my goodness. Let me intro you, G. So I know you just because I've worked for you, and right off the top, I want everybody to know, and I mean this, Gloria is one of the most generous, real, hardworking women in my industry. And anytime I've ever needed advice or anything, she's been there for me. And generosity is something that isn't quite common, so we come from a place of scarcity sometimes, especially as Latinas in this industry. And Gloria is the first one to champion voices being heard. And so personally, G, I appreciate that. That's always in my forefront whenever I
thank you, my friend. Thank you.
I want you're the real deal, and which is why every one of you applauding, because it's always deserved and earned. And I really admire the way that you've created this career, this space for yourself, and every time you amplify other voices as well. And you're always open to giving everybody advice. And that's
I really feel like it really is righting a wrong through writing. It's what you do too. You know, we have the power of the pen it's powerful. And I feel so much that our community has been so underserved. And I really feel like we need to speak up and we need to represent, because you and I both are such proud Cuban Americans. And tell everybody, who will listen. And I have such incredible pride for my family. You know, I do everything with family leading. You know, familisimo is in my heart and in my blood because of the sacrifice that is one generation prior. The sacrifices my abuela and abuelo made in sending both of my parents, for those that don't know, both of my parents are Pedro Pan kids.
Right.
And I cannot imagine having two children of my own now. I cannot imagine being in a situation where I would say, Lord Jesus, please let there be people on the other side who will be kind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not,
the situation must have been so dire for them. And then to have seen my parents come here with a suitcase, and thrive and build a beautiful life because of the opportunities that this country afforded to them. So I know, and you know, we know when this country gets it right, boy, do they get it right.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Boy, do they get it right. Look at us. We are living proof.
That's the thing. Like they welcomed, and mind you, something. Okay, so it's 3:05 now. Let's officially start.
Okay, we're started. We've started.
Our first inaugural guest, Gloria Calderón Kellett, an incredible human being, an incredible artist, a tremenda Cubana, representing us all beautifully. Gee, I don't know, co-producer, co-creator, co-showrunner of the amazing One Day at a Time.
De todo.
Huh?
De todo.
De todo. And she's working on with Amazon Studios to develop a new exciting slate of shows. Proud Cubana. She's go look her up on IMDb, because I don't want to waste time with your incredible resume, because I could just do the half hour on the 40 minutes on that. She's working with everybody. She's just awesome, and she represents us beautifully. And I wanted to invite her as our first guest for Cubano con Biden, because we're both very proud Cubans. We are both children of Pedro Pan kids. And Gloria, now to get back to what you were saying, my God, this country in the middle of the Red Scare opened its arms and hearts to these little kids fleeing communism, and gave them an education, and gave them the right to work legally right away, and scholarship abilities, and the right for Cuban professionals to get their degrees, reinstate their degrees so they can continue being professionals here. All of this was legislation given to us by Democrats.
Yes.
And then, of course, when JFK pulled the troops, the air support in Bay of Pigs, that was like disastrous and awful. I don't think anybody questions that wasn't a terrible moment in our history. But when you look at the several moments in our history that have been our Cuban American history, Democrats, dissidence grows under every Democratic president in Cuba. Political prisoners got released.
Of course, there's an alarm. Sorry, guys, this is my office. It's real. It's real here. Go ahead, keep going, Mama. Keep going.
Being Cubanas, like, I'm not gonna stop working just because I'm talking. Like, I'm still like,
we're louder than the car alarms. Okay.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear.
Oh, good. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
Advantage. But now we're in a moment, Gloria, where, you know, this socialista charge is always charged at Democrats.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you and I are completely anti-revolutionary, completely anti-communist.
That's right.
We watched.
We know that doesn't work. We know. Yeah. Believe me. We know.
We lived it. Our parents survived it.
No. Forget. We saw a beautiful, beautiful nation crumble. We know, right? We don't want that.
There's no question. And to me, what I find so upsetting is really like, listen, I had an uncle that was a political prisoner. Like you, I saw my grandparents struggle in this new country, struggle with the language, struggle to get back some semblance of normalcy with 5 kids. What I get really upset about is the way that political strategists manipulate our trauma.
Yes.
And they look at our history and they decide, I'm going to get their vote by telling them this.
Yes.
And because we're traumatized, we don't sometimes look at clarity with things. And the lack of discourse, like I'm in Miami, right? So I'm in the heat of it. And the lack of discourse, look, my grandparents were Republicans. I respected them. They knew I was a Democrat. They respected me. Like, we would have these really intelligent conversations. Yes. Where are those, G?
I don't know. I think right now people are afraid, and I get it, right? I get it. People are so afraid. There's so much information coming at you every single day. And it's hard to separate the news from the noise. It really is. And so I feel like what we need to look at in this moment is really what is going to continue to serve all of us as a country. And I just feel like, like you, I've had many friends, many family members who are proud Republicans, and they're socially conservative, and that's all good. Like, that's what's so beautiful about this country, right, is the discourse that you're talking about, the ability to get granular about policy, the ability to sit at the table and say, but okay, what about this? And what about that? I love it. I'm so proud that I have a home where I get to have real conversations with my parents all the time, and really great arguments. My dad, last night, my dad and I were talking about AOC, and he was like, oye, mucho, Glorita, this woman. I was like, Dad, but listen, why? I understand, given your background and given your trauma, why she's too much for you. But people are telling her to shut up, but they're not telling the 50 white guys who have been there for a really long time and are doing nothing for any of us not to. Like, we need to really look at the status quo. And for me, what's exciting about this country is that we can speak about our hopes and dreams and fears, and without fear. Without fear.
But
right?
That is what's driving me crazy right now. Like, do you know how many people have said to me, no, oye, bro, I can't because my abuela will kill me. Or I can't say this because my mom, and it reminds me of the times that I visited Cuba.
I shared with you that my parents are very triggered by me speaking publicly about, you know, my dad will talk a lot about, like, oh yeah, the guys that talk politics in my village were taken to the cemetery. Yeah. You know, like, he has, that trauma is very real for our community. But I think that certainly their great sacrifice and the great trauma that they went through was so that we could have discourse and we could have real conversation, and we could say, you know what? And here's the thing, there's not a president I can look at and say that was a perfect president, because we're human. But I do think it's valuable. It's valuable for us to look at systems and say, can this be better? Let's talk about this. Let's talk without, and people hear a headline and freak out. And believe me, I am just as guilty of that, y'all. I heard defund the police and I was like, ¿qué? Like, what? What? And then you read about it, and then I talk to people about it. And then I said, there's some things I agree with. There's some things I disagree with. We need to talk about, I think that the headline of defund the police is a scary headline that's going to turn off a lot of people. I wouldn't have gone that route. When I saw that tag, I was like, no. Mucho. Porque people are like, but okay, what? There's going to be no police? No, there's going to be, who's going to hold people accountable? Who's going to, and then you start talking to people and you're like, oh, you're talking about, these are funds that are used in certain communities. Is that the best use of that fund, those funds? When it comes to mental health cases, maybe we shouldn't call the police, maybe we should call mental health professionals. Like, there's so much to unpack there, but we need to be given the freedom to have these discourses so that we can understand and we can go, I like that, I don't like that.
Exactly. It's clear that every school has police in it, but not every school has a school nurse or a school counselor, but every school has a policeman with a firearm. That to me is like, it's just a reallocation.
It's bonker pants to me. So why can't we talk about it? Right? Why can't we just talk about it? And I also think what I miss being able to say, I see why you say that. I see why you say that, right? And here is why I say this, right? Here is why I say this. Here's why. Listen, I get, you know, my parents have worked their buns off their whole life. So a conversation I have a lot of times with both of them were, listen, we worked our butts off and other people should work their butts off too. I agree that we shouldn't be giving out handouts. However, you cannot say that the landscape is even. You can't.
That's the problem.
You can't say that.
Out of a 6-foot hole, they're not starting at the same place that we're starting, and to pretend that is its own cruelty, right? And it's its own denial. And like, how wonderful if you're going to hold people accountable. Like, I always imagine like a party, like when everybody feels like they've been invited to the party, they feel good. They're going to participate. They're going to open up. They're going to talk. They're going to work for it. But when they feel like they weren't really invited, or they can only stay in a certain room, or they can only get to a certain spot, they can't have that drink, or they can't have that hors d'oeuvre, it's like they start getting very protective. And I don't know, like, to me, all the things that we decide are like socialist. Like, no, a fair living wage is actually a pillar of capitalism.
That's right.
Because in Cuba, they do not get a fair living wage. Here, they should be able to get it.
That's right. So $15 an hour is not a crazy ask. That's not a crazy ask. And we should be going into the world, and I think there's also, like, I know bartenders who are lifers, who that's their job, and that's something to be proud of. I don't think that there should be this hierarchy of, oh, that's a blue collar worker. That every job is an important job. However, they need to be able to pay their bills.
Right.
They got to be able to pay their bills. They got to have access to good education for their children. Like right now, you know, I live in Los Angeles. There's a path for my children to have Zoom education. I am privileged, right? So I have to acknowledge my privilege that my kids go to a school and I live in a county where that is fair. I have friends that are teachers and educators that say they are in communities where Latinos do not have internet access.
Yeah.
There was a case recently where a bunch of little girls were sitting outside of a Taco Bell to get Wi-Fi so that they could go to Zoom school. Or how many people can afford a laptop and a tablet?
Right.
You know, these are things that we need to say, oh yeah, I want my kids to not go out into the world and there's people that didn't get opportunity. I just think that creates a world for my children that's inequitable and not okay.
It's inequitable, and it's not the country that we want to be in. That's why I love Joe Biden as a candidate. I love him and Kamala as a team, because I think that they both come from that place where you know what it is to be hungry. You know what it is to see your parents worried about bills. You know what it is to really, those real bootstraps, you know, those, and you have it from, you know, Kamala, obviously, as a first generation Black woman, knows what that experience is. And Joe knows what his like working class roots have taught him. And something that's very present to me is that they're always looking for the win-win, right? They're always looking for fairness, but also like, I don't think government is made for only people at the top. I think government is made, if a government isn't accountable to its most vulnerable in their society, then how can they expect to create a society or a country that can move forward? We have so many possibilities ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
What is it about? What I like about Joe and Kamala is that I think they get it. I think they understand, like, I also specifically COVID and how incredibly poorly it's
oh my gosh,
mishandled. I mean,
oh my gosh,
heard stuff today.
I really, I have to say, I've been stunned daily, but I never thought I would have to say science. I mean, never did I think I would have to say, oh, something that has been in effect in hospitals since the 30s, that's the hill you're gonna die on? What? When we have seen again and again in other countries that is if everyone just wore a mask, we could do a lot. We could do a lot, y'all. We could do a lot. And that's the strangest hill to die on. It's the strangest. Listen, first of all, for me, this president is nonpartisan. There's a lot of I thought John McCain was a very good man. I think Mitt Romney is a very good man. Like, there are leadership that are Republicans that I'm like, I would, even though I have some policy issues with them, that's a decent human being who is going to lead our country, who I want to sit and watch the president with my children and not be worried that they're going to be bullying. And I also want us to be able to hold our leadership accountable without fear. And I think that, I didn't think Obama was perfect, y'all. I did not. He deported a lot of people. People like to forget that Obama deported a lot of people and was not great to immigrants. So I think that we should be able to say those things. Right now, the way this president is behaving consistently and nobody is calling him out, he is accountable for nothing. Nobody, right. He literally, let's talk about the two Cuban Republicans that are the most prominent. He literally has said things about Ted Cruz's wife. He literally has called Marco Rubio, like, that's okay. You're going to be bullied. You're going to allow yourself to be bullied, and you're not going to say, that's not cool. Hey, how about all the times that you have on record said things about the military? That's not okay. Hey, how about the times that you were belittling a disabled reporter? Let's all agree that that's not okay. And then we can talk about the issues, right? Then we can talk about the issues. The coronavirus, what a complete disaster.
And
not
only a humanitarian disaster, Gloria, but when people are like, oh, but it's a virus, I'm like, wait, South Korea had their first case the same day that we did. They have less than 1,000 deaths. They haven't lost millions of jobs. They haven't lost, like in South Florida alone, we've lost 3,000 small businesses. Places, mom and pop shops that have been open for 30, 40 years, 50 years, gone because of the mishandling of the pandemic. And to me, that's a major, like, regardless, that's a fail in leadership. You can't divide.
That's exactly right. That's a failure of leadership. And we have seen where governors have been very strong in their leadership. Also just strong in messaging. Think of all, listen, I don't want anyone to get hurt in this. The amount of supporters that listen to him, people listen to him. Let's be honest. Yes. People like him and listen to him. And yes. He is killing them. I mean, oh yeah, this is not,
they didn't even mention Herman Cain at the RNC, and he died because of a rally that he went to with a mask.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. It's
so I feel like, you know, I just think, yes, for me, for sure, coronavirus, the handling of it, the clear message of leadership, of this is what we have to do to stop this, and this is how we can do it quickly and effectively because I'm listening to scientists, right? That seems like a smart thing to me. Minimum wage is something that seems smart to me. You know, the way he's talking about education and you know, also, by the way, they really do trigger Latinos and especially Cubans with socialism. Biden is so moderate. You guys, you can't. It's like they're trying to paint Biden as a socialist is hilarious to me. He's so moderate. He's not for the Green New Deal. He's not. Look at all the stuff that he's not for, y'all. Now,
and he's
do I think
of experience, decades of time to be you know, they said the same about Obama, and I turn around and I'm like, did I forget the Obama Revolution? Because
these are moderate Democrats. These are moderate Democrats. Democrats have consistently, you know, really since especially since Kennedy, have, you know, they've been mostly Christian because the concept of the Democratic vote is more about caring for one another, right? And so it's very interesting that they found, I think, you know, oh, we're going to make this we're going to find the few issues in Christianity and Catholicism that will be trigger points. And then you have a lot of voters that are single issue voters that are kind of like, la, 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 about all the other stuff. Right. So I just think, like,
to me the other day, she's like, you know, pro-life has many meanings. You know, nobody is pro-abortion. Nobody's like, no, you know, like,
no, God, no.
Right to choose determines so much in her own life, in the life of the child that she chooses or not to have. You can be a pro-life Democrat. You can be somebody that is anti-abortion and pro-choice. But beyond all of that, like, let's take that one issue that everybody hangs their hat on. Let's how is it being pro-life not to educate children? How is it being pro-life to purposely ignore a pandemic for votes? How is it being pro-life to traumatize people that are already traumatized by using their fear against them? How is it pro-life not to give people a living wage or health care? How is it pro-life to take away the Social Security that people have worked for and in 2020 defunct? How are any of those things pro-life? Like, if you can't, you know, the beauty of choice is that you can make a choice, and that's, we can choose to be better. We can choose to be more compassionate. We can choose to make sure that everybody has that level playing field. Then what you do after that, you're held accountable for.
That's right.
But let's level it out. And it's, you know, back again to like the using of, también yo creo que like el cubano, we got to hold ourselves responsible too, because when he came out and said that Mexicans, he started his campaign by saying Mexicans were rapists and criminals. And I'm like, how dare you? Like, how dare you? And to me, we have to stand up in, you know, for the other immigrants that did not get the ride that we got.
That's right. That's right.
Morally, it's our imperative to do it.
I 1000% agree. I talk about this a lot on One Day at a Time. You know, I think that, and I really love what you're saying in terms of reframing pro-life, because we can see that right now with our Black and brown brothers and sisters and non-binary folks that are getting murdered at the hands of the police consistently, right? How's that pro-life? We need to look at a system that is consistently murdering people that are going for jogs or going to the grocery store or have mental health issues. That is insane that we are not holding our police more accountable in that way. There's clearly a system that is broken, and they have consistently found that white supremacists join the police departments, right? So listen, there's so much, and I seek decency. I seek having conversation in a loving way as a means to understand each other. I am not interested in building walls with anyone in this country. I'm really interested in building a bridge towards one another. And if this is something that I really do want to sit and talk, but a loving and honest discourse with anyone who is still considering voting for him, and asking why. Asking, like, do you think our foreign policy is better now? Do you think the world is like, oh, America, they're awesome? Right. That's a wonderful country that is thriving and doing right by its citizens. Really? Because watch some international news. You know, this is not a place that is treating people equally. We need to look at, and what's wrong with looking at systems like, we need prison reform, clearly. Why are prisons privatized? Why? So that people can make money off of Black and brown people. And listen, Cubans, if you think that I don't walk anywhere and everyone thinks I'm Mexican, you got another thing coming. They all think we're Mexican anyway. So we better stand up for one another real fast. I
tell everybody in Miami, the minute you hit Broward, you're no longer white. You're no longer like, you are brown, and that is it.
And that's
you need to understand. Like, on one hand, I understand that being a white Cuban, I have that privilege. So I don't want to diminish down or Black brothers and sisters, because I understand that I have a privilege that they don't.
That we have a light-skinned Latina privilege, 1,000%. That we need to acknowledge as part of our journey. And that's why, like you said, we do need to speak up on behalf of the rest of our community, because the Latino diaspora is what, 20 countries now? It's a lot there. And they see us, I think that especially in politics, as a monolith. We want to get the Latino vote. It's not, they see us as one big thing.
And that's, I appreciate that the Biden campaign has done this time. They've reached out. There's like Venezolanos con Biden. There's Boricuas con Biden. There's Colombianos con Biden. Incredible groups. Salvadoranians con Biden. Panameños con Biden. Nicaragüenses con Biden. There's all of these, because we understand we're not a monolith. And we understand that we have, of course, things in common. Like, we have things in common with all Americans.
Right.
We care about healthcare. We care about the environment.
We're a very attractive people.
We're pretty. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Somos lindísimos. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find.
Pobrecito de blanquito, how they age. Sorry. I feel so bad. Like, I'd be mad at us too.
I know.
We aged like freaking dreams.
Anyway.
How to add some levity? I'm a comedy writer, for crying out loud.
Totally. We're pretty. And we can have a good time in a cardboard box.
Yes. Eso.
And we have that beautiful thing that, because of language and because of some shared culture, even though we're very different from one another, like, I can, like, my theater that I work with down here in Miami New Drama all the time, actually, just Joanna Houseman's brother, Michelle Houseman, runs this incredible theater down here, and it's wonderful because it's all these different Latinos, and we all can enjoy each other because of language and shared cultural things, and we can appreciate, but we're still very different, and it's just such a pretty picture.
It is.
Party.
It is, and this is, and so I really do feel like, you know, going back to your point, an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Absolutely. And we should always just be saying, you know, there's a lot that I like about what Biden and Harris are doing in terms of, obviously, immigration. I've been very vocal about my issues with immigration and families separated at the border, and done a lot of work in that space.
Yes.
I cannot imagine the trauma and I hope that we are able to get proper care to these children for what they've gone through and what they've experienced, to help them heal from this trauma. You know, again, foreign policy, again, greening up this country. I think that climate change, if you listen to science, is real. So let's talk about, like my husband and I, what, so sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, we're so excited. I know we're so excited. We're talking over each other. My husband and I were talking last night, and we were saying, like, what an incredible opportunity that Biden has to create so many jobs in the green space.
Yes.
To look at this the way FDR looked at it, like, let's put people back to work, to build, to be the leaders. Let's be the world leaders. You want America to be number one and America to be great? We can be the leaders. In making money, because I'm not opposed to making money, y'all. I'm not opposed. At the end of the day, make money by leading the charge in terms of green energy, in terms of solar, in terms of wind, in terms of so like all of this is something that we can do. We can put a lot of people to work to really develop technologies for how to better treat this planet. What's happening right now in California, if you don't know, there's like 27 wildfires. It's like outside, I tell you, it's end days. It's like the sun is red and it's madness. And that is because of 20 years of climate change, where the earth is so dry here that we need to give love back to our land. We need to give love to our land. We need to give it a break. We need to be more cognizant about our daily lives, what we're doing, how we're living, what recycling is. Other countries do this better than we do. Let's learn from each other. Let's learn. Let's have conversations and learn from each other.
To me, like there's it honestly, and I know this is like nobody's gonna believe you. Like, you're a Cuban and you're saying this, but when I realize I'm wrong about something, I'm like, oh, great! This is a whole new world that opens up to me. I was totally wrong about that. Now there's a new opportunity to find, to look into something the way that I never saw it before. And I think with COVID, like in a way, when COVID kind of like took the rock, like when we saw it was under the rock, we saw where all of our gaps are. And we saw where a lot of our problems live, and the people that are suffering the most from COVID, the people that are now going to be suffering from climate change, gentrification. We're seeing where we can do better. And I do think that, I know that Biden and Harris see it also, because they base their policy platform on it. This, like you say, science, they believe in science. I mean,
which is like, who thought, you guys?
Who
thought we would be like, science 2020? What, okay?
Yeah. We don't have to put on leeches if we have a headache. We take 2 Tylenol. If you take Tylenol, you believe in science. If you believe in science, you've got to look at the changing climate.
Yeah.
You know? And I just think that I'm excited about supporting them forcefully and at the top of my lungs, because I see opportunity. I see healing. And I really think that we can get on a much better foot. The fact that a presidential candidate looks right into the camera and says, Black Lives Matter. There's no question about this. That's important.
It is important.
And he was an ally. He was an ally to a Black man that was above his grade for 8 years. He was a true and staunch ally to Obama. Still will not criticize Obama. He was an ally. He respected his position, and he respected his authority and his expertise. And I think that when a man that knows how to do that is a man that knows how to lead.
Well, and he's also sacrificed so much for this country. He's put his money where his mouth is. He has a son that served. He's like, this is really also where it is. He's not going to lightly think about these issues, because he has been the father that has worried about the son. Yeah. He has been there. So I think that, I think also decency does count for something. I know that I always find, I do have some relatives that are still in the other camp. I wrote a whole episode about it, of One Day at a Time, the animated episode.
Actually, I touch a little bit upon One Day at a Time. This is something that you've done really beautifully. You brought up the Ched t-shirt, right? And the effects of it. You brought up the trauma beautifully, and Rita lived it gorgeously. She really connected with it and expressed it artistically so beautifully. You're somebody that has always put specifically Cuban issues at the forefront as well. Like, you fought all the issues that you and Mike take on. The way you handle them is so beautiful and thoughtful, because you have real conversations about it. So to me, that gives you such credibility como cubana, right? Como cubana. That gives you such credibility. So how do you, what would you really want to tell your fellow Cubanos right now, about this? If there was one thing that you could just really drill home to them, listen, what would you want to say to your fellow Cubanos this election?
The first thing I would really say is, if you are Cuban and you live here now, I don't understand why you're not voting. You need to vote. Our parents fought for us to be given the right to do so. Yeah. So for me, just in the space of how many of us are registered and don't vote or are not registered, guys, we got to vote. We have to vote. The next thing would be to really think about what you really truly think about the state of the world in this moment, in terms of decency, in terms of kindness, in terms of building bridges, in terms of olive branches. And I mean, guys, we're not part of the Paris Climate Accord. What? That's a global, that's the world saying, hey, we should be cooler to the planet, and we're not a part of that anymore?
We're the only, I think it's us in Syria that aren't a part of it.
No. I mean, so.
Joe will get us back in day one.
Oh, day one.
Day one.
I really feel like this election for the first time really solidifies what I felt the first time, but what has been solidified in the last 4 years, which is this is not about Republican or Democrat. I don't believe that this president is Republican. I believe that this is a fear-mongering bully who people are afraid of. I'm so disappointed in a lot of Republicans I had so much respect for, because they're not coming forward and saying, guys, I like this and I like this, but that wasn't cool when you did that. And I'm gonna call it out because I'm powerful and I'm not afraid to speak. There's obviously so much bullying happening in DC right now that people are afraid. And I don't want to live in a space where the leadership is afraid to speak up on behalf of their constituents.
That's not
I want to be in a space where we are allowed to have disagreements and discourse and try to come to terms with one another and try to say, all right, I feel that, I get that, you know, and there's room for all of us in this, but let's try to, the Build Back Better is not my favorite slogan, I'll say it, but I do feel like it speaks to, let's go in the correct direction. We've not been going in the correct direction.
Right.
And, you know, I also say this as somebody, when I talk to somebody who I grew up with, who's like, well, how's your 401k? And I said, I'm a privileged television writer. My 401k is fine. That's not what concerns me in this world, is how much money I have in the bank. I'm going to be fine. I'm a hard worker. I'm going to be fine. What concerns me is when I look out my window, what I'm seeing. Yeah. And what I'm seeing is inequity and inequality and, you know, a million women's rights issues. Obviously, you know, I'm an incredible supporter of women's rights. Our LGBTQ community needs love and support. Yes. As somebody who loves so many people from this community, I want their rights to be equal to mine, because that's what this whole country is about. Right. I mean, to think of the many, many amazing service men, women, and non-binary people who are trans, who are now not given a place to fight for the country. Listen, there's a lot to unpack, y'all. But what I would really say is, I think a vote in terms of decency, and then we start from there and we can get granular with everything else, is the right direction. Yeah. That's really how I feel. I feel that right now what we're seeing is not okay. It's not okay with me. It's not okay. I think that we should be a country that strives for intelligence. I think that the person that's in power in our highest office should be somebody that's smarter than me. I think they should be. Are they going to be perfect? No. Are they going to do everything right? No. But we're his boss, we should be able to hold them accountable and to say, hey, we don't like it when you did this. We do like it when you did that. Right? Like, that's what this is. That's what we're doing here. That's what this great experiment of 200 years has been. Right. So let's get back to that. And this is, I don't know what this is. I don't know. Every day I don't even believe, there's so much that you don't even have time to process before the next thing happens. The amount of distraction is staggering. And the sad thing is, it is working. So listen, vote, get your friends and families registered to vote, and try to sit and have conversations, because I want to hear from you guys as to what is the other side saying to you. Because what I'm finding when I pop over on some of my Trump supporting relatives' Facebook pages is they have they have bad information. They have bad information. So what do you, I don't know how to fight that.
That to me has been the most disconcerting thing around the last 3.5 years, really ever since he started running. The misinformation campaign that has been proven in the Mueller report came from Russia. It's the misinformation. Listen, if you have a disagreement on policy, great, cool. Let's hash it out. Let's see how we can come together, make the compromise to move the country forward. But to me, when we cannot agree that 2 + 2 is 4, regardless of who wrote 2 + 2, it's always going to equal 4. That to me is what's mortifying. And to me, that's also something that, you know, the Cuban regime does. That's the Castro regime does that. The Chavez.
Poor Venezuela is going through the same thing Cuba went through. Brazil, our wonderful Brazil.
They're all going through this misinformation. And to me, that's the greatest danger we face. I mean, I would want our people to say, wait a minute, like, pause for a minute, and how does this make sense? You know, and really question how does this fit into a policy? How does this move us forward? Because it's that accountability that we're not willing to hold Trump to. Like you said, our Republican leaders that will not be held accountable. Like, the first thing Joe has said is, hey, if you're going to vote for me, I'm going to be accountable to you. Because
that's right.
It is, you know, and to
that's
me,
what this is.
Yeah,
that's what this is.
That's democracy. That's the basis of why our families gave up everything, their language, their culture, their homes, their family, their friends. They risked it all looking for this freedom, and we have to protect it.
That's right.
We cherish it and protect it.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm excited to vote for Biden. I'm excited to be working with Cubanos con Biden. It's Gloria. Yesterday we went to La Caridad, and it was a caravan. We started off the day with a rosary. We all did acts of charity in the name of, you know, Caridad con Biden. We went to La Caridad. We all took food for their food pantry, and it was so beautiful to see so many Cubans that respect democracy, that want to see positive change in the world, that want to see consequences and equity and accountability, and they want to get rid of corruption, and they all believe that Joe can do it as I do, and as I think you do, and it's we can't lose hope, and we can't be afraid to have the hard conversations.
No, and I think, look, the other thing too that I think is difficult for everyone, and I think what I try to think constantly with Corona is, at the end of this, because this will be over at someday, right? What do I want to have learned and grown? How do I want to grow personally? And for me, it is looking inward at what my own, what's difficult for me about this moment. And I think that it's been great to revisit privilege. Mm-hmm. It's been great to revisit accountability for myself, for my community. And I think that anybody who is voting with their wallet in this moment, that's not for the greater good. And no. I think that we really need to consider for the greater good what that is. And, you know, I'd be curious. I mean, can we look at some of are there questions? Is there a question portion or anything? Is there anything people want us to talk about?
I'm seeing, you know, Trump's abuse of power reminds me of 1959 Cuba. There are some people saying that Democrats are corrupt.
And I don't disagree. There are some that are. And I think that we should call them out, right? Like, this is the whole point. This is the whole point.
Democrats are not saints. Republicans are not saints.
No. I don't understand. So I want to talk to you more. Democrats are anti-prosperity. I want to know why that person thinks that. I'm a Democrat. I'm pretty damn prosperous. I think that we just want a more equitable playing field. I know that the privileges that I have are because of education, because of a loving family, and because I was able to have the luxury of building upward mobility. Right. Not everyone has that opportunity, right? So how can we build it so that more people can be prosperous, in my opinion. But you know, you do you.
Absolutely.
Haters are going to come here, guys. That's okay. Our conversation is not just for our echo chamber. Our conversation is for one another. And look, if people are just going to come on here to bully, well, that proves our point, right? If people are here to try to have a conversation and try to say, why do you guys think, all right, you two artists, why do you guys want to have this conversation? Then let's have the conversation. I'm not afraid of that. I think that's what we're here for.
I'm going to jump in here on this gentleman saying steal from the rich to give to the poor. So I want to address that, because since COVID has started, the top 1%, the billionaire class, has made in tax cuts, I think they've gotten an additional 1.38 billion in tax cuts only since COVID started. Like, that was triggered by, in the first COVID bill, the billionaires got another 1.38 billion in tax cuts. And when they say socialism, like, I don't want anybody else's money.
No.
I want to make my own money. I want to pay my fair share of taxes. Yep. I have 5 different jobs because I'm a freelancer. So I work as hard as anybody I know. I don't think anybody wants to sit back in a chair and have checks sent to them. No. And I also funny that all these people that are like, don't take anything from the government, I'm pretty sure all the stimulus checks were cashed because we need it, because we were out of work because of the mishandling of this crisis. So and I also, you know, like, I pay a high tax bracket because I'm a fancy television writer. That's okay with me. I want the roads to be nice, and that's okay with me, right? I want the schools to be good. I want the next generation to be well educated so that they don't take away my Social Security when I'm a viejita, right? I'm okay paying taxes. And I'm okay that my tax bracket is higher. That's okay with me. So if you have it, and if you're, you know, the other thing is when people say, like you said, Gloria, the roads. I don't have children. Out of my house, I own my house, thankfully. And my taxes, I have to pay for schools, and I live across the street from a school, and I'm happy. I'm a child of public school. I live across the street from a school. I'm happy that my taxes go to educating kids. I'm happy that my taxes go to los viejitos on 8th Street that go to the comedores, that get food every day, that are in Section 8 housing. I'm happy that my taxes support people that need it, because that's to me, that's the most Christian thing that you can do. We benefit so many ways from our government, giving our portion back to make sure that we still have a functioning, healthy society. That's a very small price to pay in the big scheme of things. So yeah, I think that, and you know, we're lucky to be able to pay it, because if I weren't making money, I wouldn't be able to pay it, and I wouldn't be charged taxes.
Right. So
if to me, being in the position of giving means that you have something to give, and that's a gift. That's a good thing. Yeah. Okay, so we have gone over the half hour that I asked you for.
Cutting out now.
Oh yeah,
everybody's again.
We've gone over the half hour that I asked you for. I can't thank you, and everybody's texting me like, "We love Gloria. We want her down here." All these texts are coming in.
Listen, I just want to say I'm grateful to everyone who came on today. Truly, truly. Whether you're here because you're a supporter, or because you're curious, or because I really do appreciate you. These are the conversations that I want to be having. I really, honestly, truly, I am earnest. I am not cool, and I am an earnest person. And I really try to live my life leading with love. And I try to live my life based on the good and kind, hardworking parents that I came from. They are with me, and my abuelos are with me in every single thing I do. Yeah. And so for me to sit silent in this moment, I can't, because I really want, we can have a much better time on this planet, y'all, if we work together to make it a better place. And that's very much what I want to do. And that may be idealistic, but certainly striving for that is okay with me. And I hope that many of you will join us. I hope that you will be passionate in going out there and talking about these issues. It's hard to talk politics with family. It's emotional. It's triggering for our community. But I think that it can be a really beautiful thing. And you know, try to get people to vote, try to register people to vote. Definitely make a plan for voting, to vote early. There's some drive-through voting. Voto Latino has a bunch of really incredible resources to find out if you've registered, what the plan can be for you to vote early. And, you know, let's try to hold our leadership accountable so that this can be the magical and wonderful country that it was intended to be. Yes. So thank you guys, honestly, for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gloria. And, you know, every time your mom likes one of my Instagram stories or posts, I'm like, Gloria's mom is...
She's a big fan. She's a big fan.
I adore, you know, I adore her. Yeah. You know, I adore your parents and everything. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. And we're here for you, G. We're going to get this done together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And sending all my love out to LA, to the West Coast, and hoping that those wildfires get under control soon.
Thank you. Thank you, sister. Mwah. Stay safe over there, y'all. Wear masks. Bye.